Hello and welcome to another edition of Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo, Public Information Officer for the Morris County Government. Focus on Morris County is a program that's designed to keep us up to date on the actions that are being taken by the Morris County Board of Freeholders. And the show is also intended to make us all more aware of the many facets of Morris County government. On this segment of the program, we are going to focus on some county government issues, and in particular, the 2014 Morris County budget that's been adopted by the Board of Freeholders. And here with us on this segment of the program is my guest. He is Freeholder David Scapicchio. Freeholder Scapicchio is the Deputy Director of the Freeholder Board. He is in the midst of his second year as a freeholder. He's a member of the Freeholder Capital Budget Facilities Review Committee, liaison to the Department of Planning and Public Works, liaison to the Municipal Utilities Authority, and a number of other hats that he wears as well. Freeholder, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Joe.
They keep you pretty busy.
This new assignment with Planning and Public Works certainly does.
We'll actually get to that in a couple of minutes, because that is a merged consolidated department, which is brand new this year in 2014. But first, Freeholder, I want to talk about the 2014 budget and ask you, if you will, to just give us a brief overview of this year's budget, maybe how it compares to last year in terms of dollars and cents, and also in terms of taxes to be raised by the county.
The 2014 budget is a $317 million budget. $218 million of that budget is collected through taxes. The balance is grants and whatnot from state and federal government. Again, it's the second year in a row we have a 0% tax increase. The spending in 2014...
A 0% tax decrease?
Well, there was a small decrease. Okay. 0.5%.
Okay.
And that was due to the fact that we cut back 0.5% on the open space tax. So
okay.
That's what the savings is. The 2014 budget is actually $4,000 less than the 2012 budget. So we are headed in the right direction. We are on a path to reduce our debt. If we continue on this path, in 4 years, we'll have a debt service reduced by $4.7 million, I believe it is. So this board is committed to reducing debt, paying as we go, so to speak, for some of these capital projects.
Let's, you bring up a couple of things that I want to follow up on. First of all, the tax that's used to fund the open space program. You mentioned that that's been reduced. What, if any, impact does that reduction have on the program itself?
It doesn't have any impact on the program. Staff has done an analysis for us, and we have, or the Open Space Fund, presently has $56 million in there that's not committed to any projects. Even with this reduction, we're continuing to raise about another $6 to $7 million that's going to go into that fund. So the fund is healthy. We're satisfied with that, and you know, the projects just aren't coming to us.
Yeah. In terms of the open space project.
The open space projects.
Yeah. We should mention that the it's referred to as the open space tax. Really, it's under the umbrella of Preservation Trust, and that is a program that funds not only open space, but farmland preservation, historic site preservation, and flood mitigation program, which is a very highly regarded program that the county established only 2 or 3 years ago.
It is, and actually I'm the liaison to flood mitigation, and I had an orientation yesterday with staff, and I learned a great deal about that program and how they implement. And there's a lot of safeguards in the plan and the program that don't allow people to abuse the program. Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Yeah. You also mentioned debt reduction.
Yes.
A big part of the county budget normally each year is the capital portion of the budget. How does that look this year? You mentioned that the capital projects, the capital budget has been reduced. How did you do that? What kind of projects are being funded? What kind of projects are not being funded? Well,
the board has had a goal for the past 2 years of borrowing no more than $25 million for capital projects. This year we were under the 25. We're actually a couple $100,000 under the $24 million number. and we have focused our attention on the county's assets, roads and bridges, buildings, and the infrastructure. You know, all of the major projects, at least for the time being, are completed or already in progress. So the focus has really been, at least this year, on roads and bridges. And, you know, we started to fund some additional money in roads back in November before we knew of the terrible winter that we were going to have. And it's interesting you bring that up, because I was talking with Dean, the Director of Public Works and Planning, yesterday, and in order to do we have 300 miles of roads in this county. The county owns 300 miles of roads. In 2014, we're paving approximately 7 miles of those roads. Based on the lifespan that we now get from the asphalt, the fact that the cost of the material has escalated, we need to put about another $3 million into that fund to be able to pave or repave 10 miles of roads a year, which will give us our 10-year lifespan.
Yeah. Now, the freeholders this year did add, I think it was an additional $775,000 to road and bridge projects, and also added an additional $75,000 for strictly the repair of potholes that were left behind by this terrible winter. How is that? What kind of feedback have you been receiving from the public and from local officials in terms of the pothole program?
The feedback has been good. It's not in full force yet.
Yeah.
We need to wait for the warmer weather to come, the asphalt plants to open, and no rain. It needs to be dry. But we found out that the county only had 3 of these hot boxes. A hot box is a box that is pulled behind one of the trucks that keeps the asphalt hot as they go along and fill these potholes. We purchased another 3. So we now have 1 at each one of the 4 county garages, and once we get the 3 new ones delivered, we will have 6 crews out there with 6 hot boxes repairing these potholes. And we've also managed to retain some outside subcontractors to help us, so that, you know, when we finally begin that process, we can complete it pretty quickly.
Yeah. The capital budget that the freeholders adopt every year, how far in advance are you looking in terms of projects that might be coming down the road? How far in advance does that capital budget go?
It's a 5-year program.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, there's a lot in there, and a lot of things get moved around. A lot of times things get split up, but it's a 5-year program.
Now, you also mentioned that you're a liaison to the Department of Planning and Public Works. Now, that was a department, one of several departments and agencies that saw some reorganization toward the tail end of 2013 and this year in 2014. The reorganization from these departments, the library, the departments we just mentioned, also impacted the budget, did it not?
It did.
In a positive way.
In a positive way. And it was pretty interesting, because a lot of the savings that we've realized and the combination of departments under one roof, those suggestions have really come to the board from employees and our department heads. And it's worked out fine. I mean, when Steve Hammond, the county engineer, retired, the administration came to us and said, we don't believe we need to hire a new engineer. We can reorganize this department. We brought Mosquito Commission into that department. We brought the planning. Dina took over for planning and public works, so she's now in charge of that whole big department: open space, planning, flood mitigation, and we've realized some savings there and more efficiencies.
So we've gone from the Department of Planning and Development and the Department of Public Works now to the Department of Planning and Public Works. Freeholder, you mentioned the Mosquito Commission, which is now a division of this new department, Division of Mosquito Control. What do you foresee this, why was that decision made, first of all, to go from a commission to a division?
Again, that was a recommendation from staff, and when we considered creating this one larger department, staff said, you know, hey, listen, let's let the Mosquito Commission and the Mosquito Organization do what they do best. Basically, what we've done is we've taken over all of the office work that they used to perform. So we save on a separate audit, which they no longer have to do. They no longer have to file their own, payroll. It's done at a level for everyone.
Right. What about mosquito control? I know initially there was some concern that the control efforts might not be what they used to be, but what do you have to say to
There will be no
concern?
change. Nobody on the street will see any change whatsoever. In fact, we think they'll be a little bit more aggressive because they have less office work to handle.
Yeah. Now, at the beginning of the program, I mentioned that you were a member of the Capital Budget Facilities Review Committee. We've talked about the capital budget. What about facilities review? What role in county government does this portion of that committee play?
Geez, you have the courthouse, you have the administration building. We've got a lot of buildings around the county, and they're old buildings, and we need to continue to maintain those. And you know, I'm a public works guy. That's where I came from, so I understand and realize the importance of keeping those buildings in excellent condition, which they all are.
Just as you would keep your infrastructure in good condition,
Absolutely.
maintaining.
Absolutely.
Now, I mentioned also that you're in the midst of your second year on the Freeholder Board. Before that, you had a wealth of municipal experience in Mount Olive, former mayor of Mount Olive. Since you've been on the Freeholder Board, have you found that that municipal experience has come in handy? Has it helped you as an elected county official?
It certainly has. You know, I served 8 years on Mount Olive Township Council, Council Vice President, Council President. I then served as mayor in Mount Olive Township for 5 years, and in that capacity, the executive experience that I learned in a public government entity, you know, it's great. I mean, I don't think I'd be the freeholder I am today without that kind of experience. So for me, it helps me.
I mean, obviously there were differences, but in the long run,
There's some differences in terms of the way the committees are all made up, but
yeah.
you know, you're still dealing with the same departments. They're just smaller. You're still dealing with a budget, although smaller. I think the budget in Mount Olive when I left was about $30 million. Here we have a budget that's over $300 million. So the issues are the same. They're just a little bit bigger on the county level.
All right. Well, Freeholder David Scapicchio, I want to thank you very much for being with us today and enlightening us on some county government issues, especially the 2014 Morris County budget. Now, if you have a question about county government that you would like to have answered, maybe it's about an issue that we have not had time to discuss on this segment of the program, please feel free to call the Morris County Freeholders Office at 973-285-6010. You can also find lots of great information on the Morris County website, which is morriscountynj.gov. Once you're there, you can sign up for the county's electronic newsletter. You can also view the county budget online, by the way, as well, if you want to take a look at how specifically county government is spending your tax dollars. And also like us on Facebook, follow county government on Twitter, and you can also check out the other social media that Morris County embraces. I'm Joe Garifo. Thank you for being with us. Don't go away, though, because we'll be right back.
Are you pregnant, scared, or a new mother who can't care for your newborn?
There's a safe haven in New Jersey.
You or a friend can bring an infant to any hospital or police station and give up custody safely, legally, and anonymously.
No questions asked. No shame, no blame, no names.
Call 1-877-839-2339 or visit njsafehaven.org to learn more. Remember,
New Jersey has a safe haven for unwanted infants.
Brought to you by the New Jersey Department of Children and Families.
Welcome back to Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo. And on this segment of the program, we are going to receive an update on a county program that we first spoke about here back in 2012. It's an innovative flood mitigation program designed to assist homeowners who have repeatedly been the victims of flooding. My guest is Jennifer McCulloch. Jennifer is the coordinator of the Flood Mitigation Program in the Morris County Department of Planning and Public Works. Jennifer, thank you for being with us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
If we can look back a bit, back in 2012, this whole program, the Flood Mitigation Program, came about. It was initiated by the Morris County Board of Chosen Freeholders. Can you give us a little bit more background about how this program first started a couple of years ago?
Of course. In the wake of Hurricane Irene, former freeholders Gene File and Ann Grassi saw the devastation firsthand and saw the residents and the communities really struggling with this cycle of destructive, repetitive flood loss. And they wanted to do something proactively. So they formed a feasibility committee to look at the issue. And what they found was surprising. New Jersey actually ranks #2 nationwide for severe repetitive flood losses. We're second only to the state of Louisiana. They found that the most effective and permanent flood mitigation measure is actually flood acquisition, where you purchase the home, demolish it, return the land to open space to act as a flood storage area. Interestingly, nationwide, the return on investment for flood acquisition is 5 to 1. So for every dollar spent by a community to acquire a home, they usually receive roughly $5 in benefits. So in March of 2012, they created the Flood Acquisition Program, which was the first ever in the state of New Jersey. And they shifted over $16 million that was available in the Open Space Trust Fund. Now, I'm happy to say that we're now joined by Bergen County, who has started their own flood acquisition program very similar to ours.
So I assume the main objective is to get people out of harm's way.
Correct.
With this program.
Correct. We're also looking to lower municipal costs that are created by these intense flooding episodes, and to create flood capture and storage areas that actually protect the remaining homes and businesses.
So basically, how is the program here in Morris County structured? How does it
Okay. Our only applicants are municipalities because they're the ultimate owners and stewards of the property. We only do acquisitions, and we only work with willing sellers of residential properties. And these are homes that have either experienced repetitive flood losses or had substantial damage from a single flood event. There are 2 funding tracks. The first is the match program, where we provide a 25% match to federal and state monies. And the other program is the core program, where Morris County actually takes the lead funding role and provides up to 75%.
Are all of the 39 towns in the county eligible to participate in the program, or do you have to be in a specific flood designated area? How does the application, how does that work?
Well, absolutely every municipality can apply. Luckily, many do not have a flooding issue. One of the thoughts of the freeholders in creating this program was an equalized distribution of the open space tax. So a lot of the more urban communities that may not have utilized the Open Space Trust Fund in the past now have an opportunity to use that funding.
Explain the application process, if you will. What happens once a town, I mean, what does a town have to prove once it applies for funding from the program?
Well, actually, Morris County does the heavy lifting on that.
Okay.
So as I mentioned before, these projects make good business sense. So when a town applies to Morris County, staff actually does a benefit cost analysis on every property. And we make sure that it's at least a 1-to-1. So at least it's a break-even situation. So the benefit from purchasing the property is equal to or greater than the cost to acquire it. Once staff has determined that the property has that BCR, if you will, of 1-to-1, then a funding recommendation is made to the Flood Mitigation Committee, who in turn makes a recommendation to the Board of Chosen Freeholders.
So it kind of operates along the same lines as the county's Historic Preservation Trust Fund, the Open Space Trust Fund, whereby applications are made, they're reviewed by
Correct.
a specific committee, and then those recommendations are forwarded to the Board of Freeholders.
Exactly. The Flood Mitigation Program is very similar to open space and farmland and historic in that it operates independently. It has its own set of rules and regulations, its own funding allocation, and its own committee that reports directly to the freeholders.
Okay. So now, we said that this program began back in 2012. Here we are in 2014. What can you tell us about how the program has worked? How many applications have been approved? Give us an update, a status report,
Sure.
if you will.
Sure. Right now we have 117 projects that have been approved, and we've had 40 closings, which is actually somewhat remarkable because when FEMA does these projects, they usually take 3 to 4 years. So in less than 2 years, we've already closed 40 projects. We've had $17.4 million allocated to the program. Out of that, $16.5 million has been encumbered for specific projects. So we've used 94% of the money that's been given to us. We're working very actively in 7 towns. the town of Boonton, Denville, Lincoln Park, Long Hill, Parsippany, Pequannock, and Riverdale. There are other towns that we're working with. We just don't have active projects there yet.
Okay. What does this program not fund? You fund property acquisition.
Correct.
And what do you not?
We don't fund demolition. That is not an allowable use of the Open Space Trust Fund. We also don't fund legal costs or administrative costs.
You mentioned FEMA a little while ago, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Do you work closely with that
We do.
agency? And if so, what is their role in our program?
Well, first of all, our program is very much based on the FEMA program.
Okay.
And they were instrumental in teaching us
Okay.
how this is done. I actually went into FEMA headquarters for training in how to run a benefit cost analysis, and we use FEMA's computer model to do that. We work closely with them in terms of information sharing, you know, what communities we see are having issues. And they also share with us a lot of their technical data of flooding, which is critical to our decision-making process. So we have a very close working relationship with FEMA.
I mentioned that at the very beginning of the segment that the Flood Mitigation Program here in Morris County is really an innovative one. And I think that's borne out by the fact that it's been recognized at different levels a number of times. Jennifer, what kinds of recognition has this program received?
Well, last year, I was asked to speak at the national conference of the Association of State Floodplain Managers, which is the national organization, both as a keynote speaker and as a workshop presenter. And as a result of that, the ASFPM came to know the Morris County program in great detail, and they chose our program as a model program for their national toolkit. We also won the State Association Award for Outstanding Floodplain Management.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
You mentioned that there have been 117 applications.
No, there have been more than that. There have been 117 projects approved.
Approved, okay.
Approved.
How do the towns and the homeowners find out about the program? Do you actively go out to the towns where you know flooding is a problem and pitch the program to them and about the benefits of the program? Do they come to you?
It's a mixture of both. When the program was launched, we reached out to every single municipality. I do a fair amount of speaking throughout the county and the state about the program. And a lot of it is word of mouth. We've had towns that came in because they spoke to another town that had a good experience with the program. To be honest with you, we have not gone out and really marketed it because there's just me doing this program.
The homeowners, do you deal with the homeowners at all, or is that up to the towns?
No, that's up to the
Okay.
towns. We deal with the municipalities. If a homeowner contacts me, I usually refer them to the town.
Now, on the subject of flooding, there was something I believe that we spoke about a couple of years ago. It's called the Biggert Waters Flood Insurance Reform Act.
Yes.
Or BW12, which deals with FEMA and other agencies. It deals with the way the National Flood Insurance Program is run. How does this affect Morris County? Should we be aware of this program?
Absolutely.
And if so, why?
Well, the reason why homeowners should be aware of it is the Biggert Waters Act basically removes many flood insurance subsidies and discounts that were previously provided that kept insurance rates down. So at this point, those have been removed for most of the most seriously affected flood-prone homes. So the insurance rate is allowed to rise by up to 25% per year until it reaches the real risk level. So I would highly recommend that homeowners reach out to their insurance agents and find out how the Biggert Waters Act affects them personally, because they may see increases in their flood insurance rates.
Okay, especially all homeowners, especially those who are in flood-prone areas?
Especially those in flood-prone areas, and unfortunately the homeowners that are most affected are ones that are in special flood hazard areas or are severe repetitive loss properties.
Okay. Any idea, I mean, are there properties who probably could take advantage of this program, but simply are not for one reason or another? I mean, have you ever done a study as to how many properties may be eligible for this program?
Based on the work of the feasibility committee,
Yeah.
there are over 1,000 properties in Morris County
Okay.
that would qualify. But it's critical to understand that they need to be willing.
Yes.
Sellers and the municipality also needs to be willing to take on this property as open space because they will be the owner and steward going forward.
And I know in terms of properties, you're not looking for a property here and then another property across
Correct.
town. You kind of want to make them contiguous to each
Correct.
other. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, the most efficient flood storage is in a larger area,
Okay.
as you might imagine. So we're not looking for checkerboard. We try to establish project areas. So many of our towns are looking to purchase whole neighborhoods
Okay.
at a time.
Jennifer McCulloch, give us your contact information, if you will. If there's a municipal official or perhaps a homeowner who would like to find out more information about the flood mitigation program, how can they reach out to you?
They can either go to our website at morrisplanning.org, or they can use my email address or phone number that's given right here.
Okay. Jennifer McCulloch, I want to thank you very much for being with us today and giving us an update on Morris County's flood mitigation program.
Thank you very much.
Now, if you have a question about Morris County government that you would like to have answered, you can call the Morris County Freeholders Office, and that number is 973-285-6010. You may also visit the county government's website, that's morriscountynj.gov. Once you're there, please sign up for the county's electronic newsletter, Morris Connections. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, view past programs and some county informational videos on YouTube, browse through the county's document library on Scribd, and check out some photos from various county events on Flickr. I'm Joe Garifo. Thank you very much for being with us. Tune in again next week at this time for another edition of Focus on Morris County.